What's the kind of the first time as a kid when you realized you love football or that I've got some talent for this game?
Man, just when I realized football was something I wanted to be a part of, growing up, and just probably when I was, really young. My cousin was a couple of years older, and I'd always hang out with him and his friends. So I was always the youngest kid, and I always had to play with the older kids. So I think that taught me right off the bat to be tough, and so I kind of credit that to my, early on kind of, progressing in football and sports. We'd play wiffle ball and things these kids don't even do these days. We'd be outside playing, but that was my earliest memories of football, and a lot of tackle football with kids that were older, and I wasn't the kid that go home crying to mom, so I had to earn my keep and try not to be picked last all the time. The hardest I've been hit, you know, I think I thought about this, and I think it's probably the hardest I ever hit someone was the hardest I've ever been hit. I think I've been hit hard, but I think some of my biggest memories of getting hit hard were some of the hits I put on people and about knocked myself out. And so it was more the other way around. It was more me coming in like an idiot and leading with my head probably.
This interview is brought to you by Appliance Wholesalers Plus. Trust the boys that sell GE and Samsung at AWP. They've been supporting Region 9 athletes for over 25 years at AWP. Sponsored by Grass Creek Construction, bringing visions to life for over 20 years. Who's the toughest guy that you ever played with?
Uh, that's a good question. Um, Probably. I mean, I played college at SUU, and
Yeah.
um, obviously played with some decent high school kids too. But I think the toughest kid I ever played with was a guy by the name of Matt Cannon, and Matt was our quarterback, and we ran the option. I was a defensive guy, but we ran the option, and man, he would just take hit after hit after hit. Being a quarterback in the option offense, I mean, you run it. You're
Yeah.
running 85% of the time, and so just watching him lead the offense, and it was always nice because it kept the defense off the field. Some of them 10, 12 play drives, and I ended up naming my kid after Matt Cannon. Named my kid Cannon, so I got to use him if I named a kid after him.
Wow. Oh, very cool. That's awesome. Who's a coach who had a big impact on you and that maybe influenced the way you coach?
Yeah, that'd be my defensive coordinator in college. His name was Chris Howard. Coach Howard was probably the reason I think I have a lot of similar coaching styles. I mean, he was a hard coach. I mean, he was he wasn't there to be friends with everyone. He was there. He was all business, and he's in the weight room with us, and I always respected that. He'd watch us work out and make sure we're working hard. And then, as a defensive coach, he was on the field with us too. And I just always liked the way he coached. And, he was at times kind of not always easy to approach, he wasn't real personable. But you knew he was in it for the right reasons. And he just taught me, there are no such thing as a shortcut.
I'm wondering if you can think of like an in-game decision or play call that in a big moment that worked and it was just like the best feeling in the world when the kids executed a play and it worked for you guys.
We were playing, it would have been our, we won, we won a handful of state championships at Duchesne, where I coached, so the head
Yeah.
coach. And one of the years we were playing Rich High School, it must have been like 2012. And we were up 14 nothing most of the game. Fourth quarter, they get it down to 14 7. And then they ended up scoring late with a minute left to make it 14-13. And, there was a timeout called and they were going for two. I mean, it was all or nothing. Um, we kind of knew they were going to try to run away from a kid named Trent Roberts, and so we kind of planned they're going to run option away from him, and so they went trips left and they ran the option to the right and did exactly what we kind of thought they would do. But we ended up stopping them, and winning the state championship on a 2 point conversion. So I don't, and that was in the snow at Weber State, and so that was a memorable moment. Nothing that we did crazy play call or nothing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of, got our kids together and got them grouped up and got them ready for that big play.
That might be the answer to the next question. The most fun win of your career, either playing or coaching.
Oh man, you know, I would say the very first state championship was '06. Um, I was at Duchesne. They'd never won a title. They'd been 37 years, I think, of football, and they'd never won a state championship. And it was kind of a Kanab High School in Duchesne, and we hadn't played each other in the regular season, so we didn't really know what to expect going into the game besides film. I mean, they were the highest scoring team in the state, and we were undefeated, and so it was traditionally, we call it the David versus Goliath. We were the David, and they were the Goliath because they'd won several championships over the years, and ended up beating them pretty handily. It was 30-0, but that was probably the biggest win because it was our first ever. And then we also had an assistant coach that year die during the season, and the kids kind of dedicated the rest of the season to him. And he was our starting center's father. And so there was a lot of emotions connected with that game, too.
How long does it take you to tell if a kid's a player or not the first time you see him, either at camp the first time he's a ninth grader or whatever? What are you looking for to tell this kid's going to be able to help us and be a player?
Well, there's two things. There's the athletic part, and we just got done with spring ball, but spring ball you can't wear any equipment, so
Yeah.
you're out there in street clothes, and so there's that kid that looks really good in street clothes, and then there's that kid that looks really good in pads. And so, if they look good in street clothes, that's a bonus. That's a big deal. I mean, because they can run,
Yeah.
they got some skill set, obviously, or you wouldn't be thinking highly of them. But what separates kids is putting the equipment on, because now we separate the boys from the men, and um, so you can't ever get a good description of a kid until they're full padded, in my opinion, because like I said, we've got a lot of kids that look good running the ball, running and catching, but then when they have to tackle somebody or block somebody, all of a sudden now there's some problems, or now they're scared to get hit. And so um, athletically, I can look at a kid within 10 minutes and figure it out. But as far as, some of the best players I've ever had aren't the best athletes, but you put them in between the lines and they're a different
Yeah.
breed.
Okay, excellent. Then the last one is just generally, why is football so special to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. I mean, um, I think number one is it's just, it's something that I've done for a long time, as a kid. I mean, a lot of kids play it in high school, and then some get to play it in college. And for me, being a college player, I thought I knew a lot about football until I became a coach. And then when I became a coach, I realized I knew nothing. I knew a little bit, but I learned more in the first year of coaching than I did in the first, 15 years of playing,
Yeah.
because I had to learn other positions. And so, for me, I always tell kids, I'm not a good mechanic. I can't build a house. There's a lot of things I'm not good at, but I feel football wise, you know, I, I just feel like that's the one thing in life that I've always been able to grasp and understand. And although I've got a lot to improve on, it's just something that, I was blessed with as far as a player. And then I think as a coach, I've learned so much over the years that it's put me in a situation where I can teach other coaches how to coach, and players how to play. And so for me, if you find something that you feel like you're gifted at, or you're above average at, and something that you enjoy, it's a bonus. And for
Yeah.
me, it's the best of both worlds. And so I love to compete, and I love to watch kids progress. We're maxing out this next week with some of the weights in the weight room, and the kids are just salivating at the mouth. So excited because we don't max out but twice a year. And so, to watch them start from, down here and end up way up here, um, like I said, and being a competitive person,
Yeah.
and there's nothing like a Friday night.
Yeah.
No matter what job you have in the world, nothing will bring the excitement that a Friday night will. And so for us, it's fun to be in those moments, and it keeps you on your toes, and it's a full time job. it's football coach does never really end, and so we're busy, but we're also in a position where we get to watch kids start from, we call them newborn fawns when they come out, into high school and hopefully end up as 4-point bucks. We try to grow them and mature them, and so just watching that process is satisfying.